All right. Hello, everyone. I am Hannah Lisa Lore, formerly the Paperback Bruncher. And today we have a very special guest, someone near and dear to my heart for a very long time, the wonderful, incredible Sara Shepard. And I've got a little bio that I'm going to read about Sara. One of my favorite things to do is to read an author's achievements to them because I feel like so often you spend time at home and don't get to hear someone face to face say all of these things that you've been working so hard at because you're often focusing on what's next. What am I promoting now? So it's nice to have someone else, be in your corner for a second. So Sara Shepard is a literary powerhouse and someone I grew up with whose work has captivated millions, yes, millions of readers around the entire globe. You may know her for her New York Times bestselling series, Pretty Little Liars. Yes, that Pretty Little Liars, which became a cultural phenomenon and inspired the hit TV show as well. Sara has established herself as a master of suspense and intrigue. With over 30 novels spanning YA and adult fiction, she has a talent for crafting unforgettable characters, shocking twists, and keeping you on the edge of your seat with her mysteries. In addition to Pretty Little Liars, her books include The Lying Game, The Perfectionist, and the critically acclaimed adult novels The Elizas and Reputation. Now, with one of her latest releases, Nowhere Like Home, there's even more after that one that we'll also get into. She really continues to deliver on these gripping, heart-pounding stories. And of course, you're here primarily to discuss what my book club read, which was Nowhere Like Home, that came out recently, but you've got even more new releases, so I'd love to get into those a little later as well. It's hard to pack in 30 novels in an hour, so we'll just do our best to just chat about our love of books and keep it somewhere Nowhere Like Home based. But I wanted to just give you a big shout out for crafting such a wonderful story and for continuing to just evolve and grow. I've been a fan of yours for such a long time, and I am just so honored that I got to go to the launch party, first of all, for Nowhere Like Home.
Oh, yeah.
And then we went to Tucson Festival of Books, and now we're together on the internet. So I'm I just keep orbiting your circle, and I am so thankful that you continue to make the time for your readers and my book club. And we even had an in-person meeting to discuss the book as well. So we are just continuing to give the love back to you.
No, thank you. And that was such a nice introduction. That was such a nice thing to hear. And I love your book club and all of the things that you're doing too. So,
Thank you. Yeah,
yeah.
this was a really special one for us because once a year, my book club collaborates with another in-person Tucson book club. So
Yes.
we did a hybrid one too. So we got double the amount of readers, and I was we are going to show up for Sara. So it was really cool to have our annual meetup, have a book that's also Tucson based, which is
Yes. At the
very
festival. It was really
intriguing.
fun. It was really fun.
For those who haven't read the book Nowhere Like Home yet, I am curious if you can kind of give an overview of what it's about, but with a little bit of a twist. Since you're so good at twists, I'm going to give you one. Um, Instead of giving your standard elevator pitch that you usually would do, read it. Tell us the story from your character's point of view.
Oh, I like
I
that.
like this one.
Yes, I like that. Am I speaking in first person?
Yeah.
Like I am the character?
Mhm.
Um, it's a little tough because there are a couple of different voices in this story, but I will do it from sort of the main voice, Lena. So let's see.
It's going to be a little tricky.
Let's see. I have many haunted things in my past, including this friendship that I let go of. And I don't know why she just left me, but I kind of do because we had this falling out and I kept this secret from her. But anyway, now I just had a baby. I feel very overwhelmed. I don't know who I am anymore. And I had a chance running with this friend. Um, who was the friend that got away, and she is now living in this very intriguing place in the desert. Sort of sounds like a commune, sort of sounds like a cult. And she suggested that I come out and just spend a weekend there, in the desert. We can bond. And I really, she's one of the unanswered questions in my past. So I am really compelled to go out there and figure out kind of what went wrong between us, maybe make amends. bring my baby with me, kind of leave at the drop of a hat, kind of don't tell my husband, which is a little sketchy, not really thinking clearly. But when I get there, I come to find, and hopefully this is not too much of a spoiler, that the absolute last person that I want to see there, the person who is a big part of a secret in my past, is also a resident. So it sort of throws everything into the present day. I have to face all of my secrets, and it seems like somebody maybe has put us there together. What is going on? Who can I trust? Um, and am I going to get out of this alive? So
Mhm.
I would say it's kind of
It's a
that.
little complicated, I would
It's a
say.
little complicated. I have also not read the book in a while, so it's kind of like, wait, what just happened? But that's sort of that's like the front story. There's a lot of backstory stuff too about what is this secret? How does it involve three different people? There's a very I could have told the story from a completely different
Mhm.
character. Her name is Jillian, who would have a completely different take on all of this.
Mhm.
But yeah, so that is, but we're hearing from Lena in this version.
I love that. It's honestly, it's one of those ones where I felt like I needed to be like a beautiful mind and like pinning up things on the wall with like the strings because I was like, I know that like the answers are like right beyond my reach. And I felt it the entire time. I was like, we're almost there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But I never could
It's
quite figure it
close.
out.
I also with the in the edit process, especially I was a proofreader's nightmare because there were so many different like time periods and like things that I needed to keep track of. And I guess there was one time period that I just like could not wrap my head around, and she kept sending me this schedule or this sort of calendar of like, no, this could not have happened on this date. If this happened, you have to. And I was like, but really? And it was so it was, yeah. Shout out to
It's
my
helpful. It's
proofreader.
helpful to have someone like that in the corner. I'm like,
She was amazing.
you're the creative imagination. So you know where like the story needs to go to get to the chaos that you like to ensue, but you need someone to like dial it back so that it just at least makes sense. I'm like, it can
Right,
still be
right. To be like,
outlandish, but yeah.
this is not, yeah, like, no, what? Yeah, I mean, it was. I apologized to my editor. I was like, she must hate me. And she's like, it's fine. It's okay. It's okay.
No, I'm sure she had a blast. It was like her own little like puzzle piece of a game
Yeah,
together. I
yeah,
think it would be
yeah.
fun.
I hope.
We'll go with that. We'll say that.
Yeah.
As we're chatting, so I've got some questions. We are just going to kind of flow and take a, go where the wind takes us. Goodness gracious, you can tell I have not talked to anyone yet today. um, so if anyone has questions for Sara, we will do some audience Q&A. At any point, you can leave those in the chat box, and I will start to kind of scan through those and pull them through at the end. But I just want to like warn people ahead of time because I know sometimes it takes a while to come up with your own questions. So get your thinking caps on. So for Nowhere Like Home, of course, I mentioned it has like a Tucson base setting. I'm curious where your inspiration was for a lot of these elements. So first of all, like the Tucson setting, but also this mysterious mommune. That really is something I haven't read about before. And I am someone who does love like a cult-based story. So I love that there was this twist, but where were these ideas coming from? Where were you plucking these?
Um, so I lived in Tucson for a little while from 2000, let me think, 2005 to 2008. And so, I had a good sense of what it was like, and it's, pretty desolate. It can be really desolate, but beautiful, but like really different, especially if you have come from the East Coast, which I did. Um, but one of the things when I lived out there is there's a lot of stray dogs, at least where I was living, just a lot of stray dogs, a lot of wild dogs, a lot of coyotes. And um, my husband and I would rescue any dog that would come to us. We also had dogs, so but like any dog that would come to us, we would, and that seemed to stray, we would take the dog in, and get it fixed. And we were like our own little adoption agency. And then
Mhm.
usually take it just to like the no-kill shelter, or if we knew an adoption agency or whatever. So we did this a few times. And one of the people we worked with was this rescue person. She was part of a rescue organization, and she lived way out in the desert, not on a road. Not, I mean, it was literally, so in the beginning of the book where it's like, you just drive out this one road, that was the same road. And then when you get to this gas station, you just turn into the desert, like literally.
Mhm.
There was a little street marker, but it was like a number or something. But
Yeah.
it was just this like, this dirt path, maybe not even dirt, just like sand. You go into the desert, and I don't, it must have been enough of sort of a road that you could sort of follow it with a car, but you go back, among just the cactus, and finally you pass these houses and they look super sketchy, and
Mhm.
it's like people live here, but like, there's like a million like satellite dishes on the roof, and all these cars that are clearly nobody's driving them, and it just is like, oh my god, where are we? And we would finally get to her place, and it was like a compound. I mean,
Mhm.
she had this huge amount of land, and it was beautiful, but it was so desolate and so scary. I mean, I
Mhm.
bet it would get so dark out at night. She said it would take, 2 hours to get to the grocery store, because that was where the closest one was. Like, you are far away. It was definitely off the grid. It was definitely, she had all of her own resources that she had to figure out. I didn't ask any of those questions. But so I always, and this was years ago, but I was like, this is such an interesting location. I'm going to use this. I just don't know when, but it's like, I'm going to
Mhm.
use it. So I always kind of had that location. Sorry, it got super dark in here all of a sudden. Um, I was always going to use that location, always had it in the back of my mind. Um, and this seemed like the right situation for that. And but the commune of it, first of all, communes do exist, and I don't know if they came out of the pandemic.
Mhm.
Um, I can't remember the way that I found out about, I never found out about mine. I actually didn't even know communes existed. My friend and I, probably when our kids were really small, we were sort of like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could just buy a big farmhouse somewhere and like
Mhm.
just live together? And I don't know what we were thinking our husbands would do, but like whatever. We were just
Mhm.
like, no, we'll just be together and we'll be friends, and that would be so so cool. And it kind of came out of that. Now, I did think like, what would happen if we got in a fight? Like, what would the
Oh
falling
yeah.
out be like? How would that exist actually? Um, but then I started to sort of think of like, what would that be realistically? And that sort of was also looking into intentional communities, as they're called, like communes, and what kinds of people go to them. So it all just sort of came together. But I thought it would be interesting to do, whether it was whatever reason, moms want to come and raise their children with other moms. Men are not part of this, but like,
Yeah.
not I mean, at first it wasn't like we hate men, but it was
Yeah.
more just like, no, I just want to concentrate on like the moms together. So it just, yeah, I guess it just kind of came out of that. There wasn't really like a story that I'd read, or um it was just one of those evolving ideas. But the location definitely was something I'd stored away for quite a long time.
It makes sense because as someone who's lived in Tucson for many years, I no longer live there, but I mean, I've definitely been on the outskirts, and
Yeah.
it really feels like you're on the outskirts there, because for those who've never been there, it's a city with really bad urban planning. There's not like a
Yes.
highway system or anything like that. So
No.
even if you're in the city, but on like the edge of the city, you're already like an hour away from everything. So if
It's
you're going like further
crazy.
out into the desert and beyond, it just like becomes really desolate and weird, and like the vibes are weird. The animals are weird from
The
someone who's
animals are
lived in
so
the country.
weird.
Javelinas are insane looking.
Yes. Yes.
It's such a strange place, and you're right about the darkness too, because Tucson has a light ordinance because of Kitt Peak Observatory, so they actually can't have like too many street lights in the city because it interferes with their satellites. So it's like weirdly creepy and dark even in like the middle of town. So it just keeps
It's so
getting
true.
worse the further you go. You
So
nailed
yeah, and I think in the book, so Kitt Peak is where um that's where the dog person lived, like
it.
out in
Mhm.
that direction. So if you can
Yeah,
only
it's out
imagine,
there.
like you're driving, I think you're driving east, right? That would be east.
Mhm.
And that's I lived very south of
Mhm.
the city. I lived like below where the college is. I was down, so ten's like the only highway. And it's like on the east side of town. If you want to go on the other side of town, like you have to take these roads with like stop. It's very annoying.
Mhm.
Um, but so I was very south anyway, and even where I lived was like, oh my God. Like I'm a runner and I would go running and I would always run with a dog because some of my trails that I'd run on were just in the desert, and you'd come upon like naked people, guys like shooting at stuff,
Mhm.
snakes, like rattlesnakes that had eaten things. Yeah, I mean, just be like, what is happening out here? Yeah, but I loved it.
Yeah,
This is like no knock on Tucson. I loved living there.
it's a
It was,
bizarre but charming place.
it's beautiful, um, but it's interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely. One time I was running and there was just a horse, like a wild horse, like running. I was
Yep.
like, does that horse belong to somebody? He was
Mhm.
just galloping. I mean, he might have run me over. I mean, it was just
Mhm.
strange,
Yep,
strange
I've
stuff.
seen packs of javelinas. I've seen
Oh
horses.
yes.
I was hiking once and there was a bighorn sheep like 10 feet up the
Ooh,
mountain, which I was like, I don't know anything about these animals besides the fact that like they're kind of rare and possibly endangered. So like if this thing charges me, everyone probably wants it to live, not me. Like
right, right.
I'm scared.
Where did you see the sheep?
It's more on the north side, like by the Catalinas.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
apparently they
Okay,
got a
I've been.
bunch of
Yeah,
them there that they like planted up there to like reestablish into their own. I don't know. I don't know.
that's
Tucson.
so funny. Oh yeah, I never saw one of those in the wild. I definitely saw javelina. They ate all my plants.
They're
Um,
menaces.
so they are featured. They are featured in the book.
Yes,
Just
there's a
for
lot of
anybody
detail.
who has not read, a javelina, which they're sort of these wild boar, I guess,
Hmm.
travel in packs. They're not nice.
No, they're
Yeah,
terrifying.
don't go near one of their babies because they'll like get mad at you.
Mhm.
But anyway, there's I do feature them in the book, which was really fun.
Another really big element, of course, is these super complicated friendships and relationships between the women and the mothers. And I know in the past you've hinted about having some of your own particular toxic friendships or gaslight experiences. And I'm wondering if there was someone or certain situations that you had to pull through, or these were just kind of like, what if this went sour type scenarios? Like, where was your inspiration for the friendships?
Um, I don't think I have had friendships. I have had more of a. So there are a few other characters in the book besides Lena. There's her friend Rhiannon, who is the friend that is living on this commune, and invites Lena to come with her, and she's like the friend who got away, kind of. I have definitely had those sorts of friendships for sure, where suddenly someone is just like not talking to you anymore. Definitely in high school, where you were like really best friends, but you might have like hurt each other a little bit here and there, and then all of a sudden like you have been dropped, no conversation, you have no idea where that person went. I have had I have definitely had those. Or somebody, dropping you and you don't know why, and you want to know, I know that feeling of kind of like, what did I do? Or like, why don't you want to talk to me? Like, and you don't get that closure, and that's annoying.
Yeah.
And I think Lena is sort of very haunted by that because, she picks and chooses her friendships, I think, and has a hard time, I think, connecting with people. There's another friend though. Well, there's a friend named Sarah who's not like me particularly, but who also is in the book and plays sort of a different role, but not a friend of Lena's, at least not in the beginning. But then there's this other friend named Jillian, who I have had. So Jillian is like, I don't want to give too much away, but she's pretty needy. She's pretty needy.
Hmm.
She's pretty needy. She's manipulative. Um, she is socially anxious, sh- and she, kind of love bombs. Like she's got some interesting friendship styles. I have definitely had friendships like that. I mean, not to the extent of what Jillian is like,
Thankfully.
but I have definitely had needy, very needy, very one-sided, um difficult, I don't think this friendship is working for me. How do I extract myself from this?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I always just think that's an interesting topic because, like,
Mhm.
breakups, you break up with somebody, and yeah, sometimes breakups can be really hard, in a relationship, but it seems like a clear thing that you can do. And with friends, it's, sometimes ghosting people is like the only way you,
Mhm.
maybe think is the answer, the way out. It's harder to have a conversation with friends, I think, of like, this is why this is going wrong. I wish it
Yeah.
happened more, but I never growing up had sort of any guidelines of how to have a real discussion with a friend and make changes as you would with a relationship. So
It'd be
I've
like
definitely,
a
yes.
relationship class in schools. That would be so nice. Like, here
It
are
would be
some good
nice.
communication
It
styles.
would be nice. And I feel like that's a really interesting thing. I mean, I think like my kids definitely have the guidance, the counselor coming in more, and I hope that it is sort of about, here's like some tough things that can come up in friendships, and here's how you work through it, because like that never
Mhm.
happened. And I can't even think of a book that I read, like YA wasn't really a thing when I was growing up, but like any sort of book that gave me any kind of good, okay, I can kind of use what this character did,
Yeah.
like, as any kind of model. I mean, maybe there was maybe in Judy Blume, like,
Mhm.
I know that there are some good friendships there that, like, but I think in a lot of those, like, they just don't speak to each other.
Mhm.
And then they become friends again, but it changes, and there's no real sitting down and being like, look, I
Mhm.
can't handle this. And I've definitely had friends like that where I'm just like, I can't handle your drama right now,
Mhm.
and stop getting mad if I like hang out with somebody else, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I can definitely relate to a lot of that. When I had first moved to Tucson, I was extremely lonely, and I had found out that Bumble BFF existed. So you can essentially swipe on making friends. This was like very, very early. This was before I started my book club in person, before I had the book account. So I was really scrambling to try to find people. And then I realized you put yourself in a really weird scenario because most people are monogamous. So, you're used to, like, in a relationship, you find one person, now you're good to go.
right,
Friendships aren't like that. Like, you can have as many friends as you want,
right.
technically. But when you're swiping on me, like making these friends, and you're going to like weird coffee dates with like so many different people, you meet a
That's
really interesting group of women. So that's when I tried to just like throw them together to like see how everyone interacted, because it was like, I'm overwhelmed like
right,
with one-on-one interactions. So that's when I made like a brunch group, and I was like, let's all just hang out together, and then I'll find like who my besties are to pull out of
right,
that.
right. Did it work?
Yeah, yeah, it did. I ran like a
Oh,
brunch
that's
group in Tucson for
nice.
like 4 years, so it went
That's
really well.
amazing.
And
That's
I'm still
amazing.
friends with like
Because,
a bunch of them today, but a lot of them are very complicated relationships too.
okay, because I think mixing friends, and there's a little bit of that in the novel, just introducing friends or sort of bringing a third person into a two friend group is hard sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think more like as you become more of an adult, I think it's less hard. But like even in my
Yeah.
20s, which these characters are sort of in their 20s, early 30s, like, it is hard to bring that person, two people that you like a lot together, there can be
Mhm.
some friction.
Mhm.
I will say though, Tucson, I don't know, I don't think it was Tucson in general, but I moved there as an adult, and I also found it hard to make friends. It's hard, if you're not going to school, whatever. I joined a bunch of like, I joined like this swim, like I'm not a triathlete, but I joined like a triathlon club,
Okay.
and it was great. I actually made a lot of friends that way. And having dogs, I would also recommend, if you're looking to make friends, like get a dog and then go to the dog park, because then that made me a lot of friends. So that was nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it can be hard. I think too, especially like readers and writers are people that spend a lot of time at home too. So
yeah,
you're
yeah,
not generally in those type of situations. You have to like
yeah.
outwardly create them and find new interests, which
Right, right.
is
Because when I moved to Tucson, that was right when I was writing the first Pretty Little Liars books. So the first, I would say, three or four Pretty Little Liars novels were written when I lived in Tucson. And right, I wasn't moving there to work at a job. I wasn't moving there. I wasn't teaching. I was just writing. And besides my husband, we didn't really know anybody. We just kind of was like, oh, let's get away from the East Coast for a little bit. Let's go somewhere warm. Um, and yeah, it was just, as a writer, sometimes it can be very lonely if you don't have that kind of built-in um, community. And I think I did also meet some writers that lived there, and that was nice. And I think writers have done it. I think social media has changed everything. And again,
it
like
has changed everything.
it
Yeah.
really like. Uh, when I was writing those books, so this is like 2000, yeah, 2006, 2005, 2000, like there wasn't that. Social media was kind of around, but like not MySpace sort of, but like not really, um, in the connecting way that it could be now. And
In
that's
early
too
social
bad.
media, I feel like you were really just like connecting with the people that you were already interacting with in person.
Totally.
You weren't really
Totally.
like expanding beyond
Yes.
the bubble. You were just like further connecting with your same little group.
Right. Although I do remember I built a pretty good MySpace fan base for PLL. It
Oh,
was
I
fun.
can see
It
it
was
really
fun.
excelling in the MySpace era. I
Yeah,
was
it was fun. And I think what I did was, the Twilight series had come out shortly before that, and I just I friend requested all of her fans, all
oh,
of
that's
Stephanie Meyer's fans, just to be like, I write a book too. Yeah. So, and it was fun. It was
that's cool.
like a little, MySpace was not the easiest thing to post on or like do anything. I don't know.
The
It was
fact that
not
we're
very,
also like learning how to code so that we could have background music is insane.
totally, totally. I don't think I ever figured that out. I maybe had a different background. I
Mhm.
don't think I ever put any music on. Yeah.
What an era. What an era. I'm
What an
pretty sure
era.
I was like the most toxic kid on the internet too. Like I was like making catfish profiles because I didn't want to
No.
like be posting as myself. To be fair, I wasn't like harassing anyone or doing much of anything, but like I didn't want to be on the internet as myself. So I remember like
Right.
seeing some pictures on like
Sure.
Google of like super Shutterstock, I'm sure, like very
Oh my
stock.
gosh. That's
Kids are weird
amazing.
on the internet.
Kids are weird. Kids are very weird on the internet. Yeah, you shouldn't trust anybody on the
Nope.
internet. No.
But that's where we make all our friends now. So maybe, maybe.
I mean, right. Actually, that's not true. Just be careful. Yeah. Meet them
um,
at book festivals too.
yes,
Yeah.
that is our advice.
Yes.
I'm curious. So you mentioned a little bit of your process of like your timeline not matching up necessarily sometimes, your editor helping you out. When you're writing something that has so many twists and turns, are you usually like, all right, I've got the big ones planned out and then we're working backwards? Or are you kind of like surprising yourself along the way ever?
Um, I usually have the big ones figured out, of sort of the roadmap, but things, there are certain dots that I am not sure how they'll connect. And it
Mhm.
is sort of like a free flow, because if I do a really detailed outline, and I've done it both ways, I've done a really detailed outline especially with Pretty Little Liars, because there were so many different storylines, and the way A was interacting and all of that. But like sometimes I'll do the outline and it seems great in an outline, and then it's like not so
Mhm.
great when I'm actually writing it. So I'll have to sort of come up with something else. In this book, I think I knew how it was going to turn out, but like wasn't quite sure sort of like what the backstory was or how it all fit together. And I know one big surprise thing that surprised me that I thought like maybe not even definitely not in the first draft, maybe not in the second draft. I don't even this book went through quite a few drafts, as they all do. Was Jillian kind of has a voice in her social media posts, but at first she didn't have a voice at all. And I was
Oh.
like, no, I think we need to hear, and I think it might have, I think my editor said, I think we need to hear from Jillian more. I don't know how.
Mhm.
So her speaking through her social media account was, oh yeah, like kind of came to me one day and was like, oh, that could be really fun.
Yeah.
Um, and that kind of thing. And most of the questions I feel like were timeline questions, and I'm always like, I'm never good with the timeline. I'm always just like, it's good enough, but it's like, when you get a copy editor in there and a proofreader, like they're like, no, it has to be like this has to make sense. Otherwise your readers are going to be like, what? This is sloppy. And I was like, okay, I guess you're right. I for some reason timeline is always something that I'm just like, oh, it makes sense enough, or like it was always like, well, wait, how could A be in two places at the same time? And it's like, oh, like it's the magic of A, and it's like, no, you kind of have to work out like how this. So I do a lot of um, for this book, for most books I do a lot of like what happens behind the scenes, like stuff you'll never read in the book, but okay, this is what the bad guy is like thinking right now, or this is what this character that sends this text, this is what has happened to them. I do a lot of that, which is sort of an outline, I guess. It's
Yeah.
just an outline that never makes it into the book.
That's so interesting to hear, like, what wasn't initially there, because I feel like Jillian's posts were such a huge part of the story. And like they were one of my favorite parts. Like I
Yeah,
remember like getting like my little goosebumps reading those parts and being like, oh, okay. Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
that's what you think. Yeah,
uh-huh.
no, they were such a I yeah, because it gives you a much better picture of her.
Mhm.
um and she's the most, you know she's the character that you get a lot of different opinions on. I mean, Lena, you get Jillian's opinion, and then you get sort of Lena, and you get other people's opinions a little bit, but like Jillian, there's some pretty strong opinions about her, including her own opinion about herself,
Mhm.
which sometimes does not match up with other people's opinions of her, like at all.
It's so
Um,
interesting to be able to hear that point of view of like from your own, or at least my own lens, that I don't find typical behavior. So I'm like, how would
right,
someone be doing any of these things? But then
right,
when you get a glimpse into their brain, they have
yeah,
perfect explanations that seem entirely
right.
rational to them.
Yeah, and it's also a question of like, is so what Jillian is saying, she's sort of rationalizing behavior a lot of the time on her social media posts, which her social media posts, her whole platform is social anxiety, and like,
Mhm.
here's how hard it is for me, blah 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 blah. But is this really how she feels, or is this also an act? So it was kind of like really fun to kind of think, what is she really? Is she going through this? How much is she like milking? How much is she exaggerating? Is she underplaying some of the, so it's all up for interpretation, I think, which is fun.
Mhm. Absolutely. And it's an interesting like little thought experiment about how you can use your internet personas to kind of weaponize the masses if you so wish to do,
Totally.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Intriguing. All right, so we have to get into of course, a little bit of the OG Pretty Little Liars. We've got some questions that the book club has been asking about
Of
this series as
course.
well, and I was like, all right, Sarah, we're gonna mix it up. We're gonna do a bit of both because we had to do it. I was curious. You mentioned you started writing some of the earlier books in Tucson. Of course, I'm sure you had no idea it would turn out to be the way that it has. But when you first started writing the series, how many books did you even think you were going to be writing? Like, kind of what was your feeling in the beginning of where you thought this series would go in the early days?
Um,
If you
when I,
remember.
no, I definitely remember. The series sold 4 books.
Hmm.
So that's what I thought I was going to be writing, and outlined 4 books worth of like the mystery arc of, okay, at the end of book 4, you're going to find out who A is. So then I think the books were doing pretty well, probably thanks to my MySpace audience. Um, so by book 2, my, editors were saying, or I was just sort of getting the sense that like I could maybe pitch more. And I loved doing it. I mean, I had quit like a full-time job just to write, and I didn't want to stop doing that. I wanted to keep doing that. I wanted to keep writing, and I love these characters. I love the series. It was so much fun. So came up with an idea of how to extend the series for, I think the pitch was 4 more books of kind of, okay, we know who this A is, but then there's this deeper mystery, and how can we make it go deeper? And it was good that I kind of started planning this by book 2, because I was able to sort of plant some clues in book 2 forward. There were no, unfortunately, there was no idea. I had no clue that this series was going to go on beyond 4 books in book 1. So there's no clues leading into. I may have like taken a few elements of like, oh, that's great that I put that there because I can use that.
Yeah,
But like there
now
was nothing was intentionally um I had no idea that it was going to be more than 4 books. So now it's 8 books. There's a clear end at the end of book 8 of like I felt really good about, okay, this is such a fun ending. Um, we have, it was a crazy twist, but like, I felt like it was a good ending for the series. I was also doing a new series called The Lion Games. So it's like I had to shift my focus to that. But then I would think about I had finished the 7th book or something, or maybe the 7th book had come out or something. I found out that they were doing a pilot for the show. I had
okay.
no
I was
idea.
wondering what the timeline was
Yeah,
specifically
so
there.
this was like when I found out they were doing a pilot for the show, and they had tried to work on TV ideas for a while, and I had kind of just let go of it by this point. I was not involved, so I was just like, whatever. If it never happens, that's fine. Um, then all of a sudden, I think it was October of 2009. I got this random call out of nowhere from the TV side of the kind of studio that was working on it. Said, "Oh, ABC Family wants to do a pilot of Pretty Little Liars," and I was like, "What? I didn't even know there was a script." And we're going to cast right now, and we're going to film the pilot in December. And I was like, "Wait, what?" So it all happened really fast. Um, the, so like I saw pictures of the people they were casting. I then they shot the thing. Then I saw the edit of the pilot, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. This is all my like the first book. Like I can't believe this. Um, and then it came out really fast. It came out. I think I met the characters. I met the actors in March of 2010, and then it came out in June 2010.
Okay.
So right around that time was when book 8 was coming out. Um, I think I'm getting this timeline right, because I know I did a book event while I was out there, because I shot an episode. I was Miss Shepard in episode like 7 or something of season 1. Somebody might correct me. I might be wrong. Um, I was out there right around June, July of that time when they were still shooting the episodes, and I also did a book event for book 8 with the Pretty Little Liars. Like, could you imagine that now? Like, all those people in one room for a book event at the Grove in LA. It was amazing. Um, so the show. Now I'm trying to remember. I would say within a year, my publishers were like, "Well, we would do more Pretty Little Liars if you want to do more." So we did. So we ended up doing 4 more. again. So I had to think of, okay, how am I going to make this, how am I going to extend the series? And it really was, okay, there has to be some time. Time needs to pass. A is gone. And there has to be sort of almost a new,
Yeah.
kind of a new mystery. Um, a new mystery that a new things that they could feel guilty for.
Mhm.
And, um, and somehow that got extended even more. Like somehow that it got extended. So like when book 8, when I knew like, okay, I'm writing to book 8, again, never had any idea that I was going to do to 16. And there are a couple bonus books in there too, which were a lot of fun.
Little novellas. Yeah.
So in the beginning, absolutely no idea. In the beginning, I was just thrilled to be writing anything at all. Could not believe I got a 4-book deal. Like that felt unheard of. Um, so no, I had never thought it would become a show. Never thought. I knew I had a good idea.
Yeah, of course.
I knew I had a fun, I knew I had a fun idea. I knew that it was at the, you know, I knew like phones were becoming so popular. Talking to people, anonymously online was becoming so popular. Like it felt like it was talking about a thing that was going to just become a bigger thing.
Mhm.
But I had no idea that, and I was not told like this is going to blow up. Like I
Yeah.
think the publisher had a lot of faith in it, but they weren't like, no. I mean, it just was. It still is kind of like I can't believe that, and it was a long time ago. It was like
Mhm.
almost 20 years ago. It's crazy.
I remember distinctly the feeling of when I would go to the library and I would see those neon spines and I would see like a new color because back then like I didn't know how to like look up when new books were coming out and I just would go to the
Yeah.
library and sometimes they would be there and I would be lucky and sometimes like a librarian would help me request them or something, but I just remember seeing like a new color and freaking out and
A
seeing those
new
little
color.
dolls. Yes, and seeing those little dolls on the cover, like
The
those
little
were so
dolls.
iconic. They were, I don't know, they were just
They
like
were.
so exciting.
I know that cover was amazing.
They were great.
The cover for the pitch had dolls on it. It was pink, and it had these little dolls at the bottom. They were more Barbie-ish looking.
Mhm.
But they made like I've seen versions of those dolls. I don't know where they are. I hope somebody has them.
Yeah,
But they made actual versions for the shoot. It
yeah.
wasn't like photoshopped or anything like that. Like those dolls exist. And they're very creepy in person.
Are they like
And they're based
how?
on as you see the girl in the back, like they're based on models.
Mhm.
They're based on sort of real people. And there was one time when I was out in New York City. It was before the show.
Mhm.
It was before the show became a thing, so it was before 2010. And I saw the model who was Emily. So she had that like reddish hair. I saw her at a bar, and I was with some people that I worked on the series with. So we were like, "Oh my God, it's Emily!" So we went over to her. We were so weird. We were like, "You're on my book cover," and like we took. She was just like, "Okay." So she probably takes. I don't know. She maybe doesn't even remember it. I don't know. But she's like, okay, so we have this. I have to dig it up. I have to post that somewhere.
That's so
Somebody's got to have it. God, it was before. Maybe it's on Facebook. I think it was before Instagram. Like sadly, so it's not on Instagram. I need to find it. It was really funny.
what is the scale of the dolls?
Um,
Like,
Smaller than a Barbie, but not that much smaller. Yeah.
okay. Also, I was
Um,
realizing like I can't even picture it. I'm like they could have been like creepily large or something for
Oh
all.
God. Oh my God, that would be
Can you
amazing.
imagine?
No, no. And that was something that I loved about the show though, is that Marlene, like that she kept the whole doll motif.
Yep.
Like
Hmm.
all
Hmm.
those creepy dolls. I love that. Oh my God. It was the best.
Ugh. And I mean, I know you've said you did not have your hands at all in the dollhouse portion of
Oh,
the show, but
love the
that
dollhouse.
I will never be over it. I was like,
No.
the first thing I think I told you when I met you in person was thank you for the nightmares. You're like, it wasn't me. It
It
wasn't
was
me.
that was not me. I loved that episode. That episode was
So
so good.
cool.
Was it
Like,
more than one episode or was it just one?
I feel like it might have dragged out over two.
And like the
I
game
feel like
board,
they were real
there
good
was
at the like
definitely the
cliffhanger
game board
and
was definitely there. Like they
Mhm.
saw the game board before they were trapped, right?
I'm
I
pretty
need to
sure.
do I need to do a
You
rewatch.
know, we were saying on stories the other day that Pretty Little Liars Fall needs to be a
I
thing.
love
So
this.
we should just
Yes.
start. I'll do a rewatch. You can do a rewatch. We'll start posting about it.
That would be so fun. That'd be
I'm
so
down.
fun. It is funny how many podcasts have launched as Pretty Little Liars rewatches,
That's
including like there was the
it's
Wine Moms.
yep.
There's Pretty Little wait, Pretty Little Podcast, and then there's Pretty Little Liars True Crime.
That's
But there's
amazing.
definitely I'm sure there are more, but these are
Yeah.
just the ones that I know and that I've interacted with.
Mhm.
There's Bros watch PLL too. Um
I love it.
Oh my God, there's definitely more. There's probably more that I've podcasted with, and if I have not named you, I am so sorry. Um, it is really funny though.
It's super cool. I think for a lot of people, maybe they missed out on like the hype. And so then now it's fun to get into it. But then a lot of us that did, read them or watch it back then or both, it's fun to re examine from like an adult lens. It's a
Yes,
new
totally.
experience entirely. And now you get to like giggle, like, and have a completely different perspective where you're like, yes, it is wild to let your teenagers go do these things off on their own, or,
Yeah,
like it's completely different, but it's still super fun. So
I know.
it
It's
has
so
like a new
crazy.
resurgence. You mentioned something right now that actually like was a very interesting little seed in my brain. So you had mentioned like MySpace in those days of promoting it, but if you had to rewrite or like write your version of Pretty Little Liars again in today's time with like the tech that is the way that it is
Ooh.
now, do you think that would make it easier or harder?
I think it would.
Because I think you got away with a lot because of the tech
Yes, I think
limited.
I'm just thinking of like GPS tracking
Mhm.
and like being able to there are just so and like just so many other cameras everywhere. Um, so much more data you could interpret from a phone, but like there's also so many more way like there were only so many ways that I could have contacting them.
Mhm.
It was like there would be maybe a note, like a physical note, which is always fun, um, or a text. I think instant messenger was like the original way, and then maybe an email. But like, you know, I feel like there are lots of other ways for and tracking them. Like I think tracking them could be really interesting.
Mhm.
Um, I think it would just be different.
Yeah. And
Yeah, but I think it would be fun. I think it would
yeah.
be like to use the tech in new ways. I think actually could be
Yeah.
really fun. Because there was some tech, but like not. It was still a little analog.
Mhm.
Uh, like I'm thinking of, for example, in one of the early books, a prints out a picture of Emily and Maya kissing, but it's like a printout and it's
Yeah. Uh-huh.
distributed.
Uh-huh.
It's like a piece of paper, instead of showing up on everybody's phones, like
I
that kind
mean,
of
in
thing.
some ways, though, like if someone took the time to like print out a picture that I felt was incriminating now and like send it,
Yeah,
that's still actually really creepy. Like it's almost
really
more
creepy. I mean, some of it, I
because it's
do,
less
I
easy to
do
do.
like some of the low tech stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it's fun.
you know, I like because, and the show did this too, where sometimes A would text, but sometimes A's presence was like, no, A was there. And I think the balance of that, I would not get rid of that. The balance of A clearly being close by and, running the car into them or whatever, or leaving just a creepy, I think one time A left a mermaid doll or like the little mermaid doll in a hot tub for Emily to find. Something like that, where it's just like, oh
Mhm.
my God, A was here. Where is A? So I would definitely keep that in.
Mhm.
Um,
It's super fun.
I love this. I'm like, ooh, I always say, yes, I'm always like, I will do more. I will write more books. But I don't know. Those girls, they've been through so much.
They really
Um,
have.
I don't know. I don't know if it'd have to be like all new characters or I wait even longer and it's their kids or I don't know. Yeah, I'm not
I,
sure.
I just have this feeling like we're not done yet, and I don't know what that
No,
means, but
I don't
there
think
is so much
so.
love for it, and like whether it's the original actresses or something completely new. I mean, there's clearly even been like spin-off adaptations that have had some success as well. So we'll see. But
Yeah,
I feel like the demand is there, and there's so much like resurgence of things. Like that is
yeah,
such a thing that like everyone is loving. Where I don't know,
yeah.
maybe it is like the Beetlejuice and the Beetlejuice, like we might
Totally,
need like the
totally.
Translators or something.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. That would be really fun.
All right. So getting kind of towards the end of our stream here, I've got one more kind of like writing question, and then I want to talk about like the other exciting things you're working on because you've been really busy and you've been emailing me about some cool stuff you have going on.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we talk about that as well.
Oh.
But my last kind of like writing based question, I'm wondering, so of course Pretty Little Liars is considered more of your YA audience, and then our book club pick was adult.
Mhm.
How do you kind of approach like how you choose which one you want to write about? Is it just like you have this idea, are you still switching or are you kind of in one lane now? Like where are you at with choosing YA versus
Um,
adult?
I have a YA idea that I am working on, so I'm definitely not done with YA. It's more just like I think more about the character, I guess, and how old the character is and the thing that they're dealing with. Um I mean, it's kind, sometimes it's as basic as that, or like a situation, like because sometimes I start like Nowhere Like Home obviously was sort of like, well, what if there was a commune of mothers? Well, obviously that's an adult. That
Mhm.
would be a different book if it were a commune of like teenage mothers, which it is not. Which that would be interesting too.
I
That
know.
would
I
be a
was like,
very
that could work in a very
that
different way.
actually could work. But that's not what I was. That's not how I was imagining it. But uh, so it's either sort of the character that I am thinking of, like, okay, am I writing about this person? Are they a teenager? Or are they older? Or the situation? And it's kind of like, is this a situation where this would make more sense for an adult novel with sort of older characters and more complicated relationships? And not to say that teenage relationships aren't complicated, because they are. So no, I hope to do more YA fiction for sure. I have definitely been, well, it's funny because I've written a lot of like adult, right, at the moment, but I've also gone sort of down the age group, and I have written a lot of middle grade.
Mhm.
So I wrote a series called Penny Draws a Best Friend, which has no murder in it. Is not a mystery whatsoever. It's very funny that I write these mystery novels, these thrillers, because I am actually like super goofy, and like not.
You're like the least creepy person I've ever met.
I am not creepy whatsoever, and I am not that serious.
Mhm.
So like so it's been really fun because these books are like not serious at all. They're very silly,
Mhm.
and they're just like zany, and they get to sort of do that whole little zany, and I've never figured out how to. No, there's a lot of silliness in PLL, I feel like, and a lot of like
Mhm.
satire and just like ridiculousness, but I have never gotten quite I've never been able to figure out how to write like a funny YA. That would be interesting, actually, to do more of a funny, whether it's romance or even if it could work to be like a thriller. That could be interesting. I don't know. To merge those two things. So no, I am definitely not out of YA.
That's interesting to think about too, of like with your middle grade series, like we'll see when that audience gets older. Like maybe they'll be
Right.
like we have this wonderful cycle of all you have so many readers of different ages now. That's really
Right.
cool.
Right. Yes, and it is very cute for a long time I had a lot of teen readers and who would write to me and whatever, but now I'm sort of getting these younger, third graders, fourth graders to be like, I loved your book, and getting handwritten letters and whatever. And that's really, I love
That's
that.
true.
Yeah.
Pre-social media, you were probably getting like a lot of handwritten letters
I
back
got a lot
then
of,
too.
yes, I got a lot of handwritten
I never
letters.
have thought about that,
Yes.
like that era
Yes.
of
It was
authorhood.
really cute. Yes. I got a lot
I
of
hope
handwritten
you weren't getting like
letters.
creepy A letters from people.
No, there was for a period of time, somebody figured out my email and I would get these letters that were not signed. Or no, I think they were signed by A and
Oh,
they were written
wonderful.
in like red. Somebody changed their font to red and it would just, I don't even remember what they said, but it was kind of like, oh my gosh, who is this? But they just, whoever that was, I don't,
Scrolling.
I don't know who that was.
Why'd you
Um,
feel like your husband? I'm just kidding.
no, yeah, I don't know. And they just stopped. Um, so I don't know. I don't know who that was.
They might have
So
went on a very slippery hike.
they might have.
They
They
might.
might have. Yes. Yes.
Okay, so before we give you back to the real world, I would love to hear a little bit about Gaslight, if you can explain what Gaslight's about, and as well afterwards about Burn Baby. So,
Yeah.
what you got going on and where they can
I
find.
know. So many books. I have so I have this book called Gaslight that actually just came out.
Mhm.
It is was sort of the collaborator on this book. This idea did not come from me. Came from a screenwriter named Miles Joris Perafit. I think that's how you say his last name. He's got a very complicated last name. Um, and based on a podcast by the same name. So there is a scripted podcast. You can go find it called Gaslight. It's really fun to listen to. All the episodes are really short, and it is about this person who comes back into a woman's life, kind of like Nowhere Like Home, and it has sort of a secret from her past, but it's kind of about a cult,
Mhm.
and in a very different, pretty different cult than the cult of Nowhere Like Home. So it was kind of fun to do both of these books at sort of the same time because I was like very much in cult land
Mhm.
and intentional community land. So that just came out. It's a really fun read. I've gotten a lot of good response from it. Like people are really intrigued by it, and it was fun collaborating with Miles. And if anybody is in the New York area in the next week, we are doing an event at Greenlight Books in Brooklyn, and it's Thursday, the 26th at
Cool.
7. So we will be talking about the book. So that'll be fun.
I'll go share the
Um,
announcement after too.
yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, and we'll sign, we'll talk about the book. And I always say to people at any event, please bring all of your PLL books too. I never mind when people like bring their wagon of
I
all
can
the
attest. I
PLL.
showed up when I met you with my like
Yes.
book
No,
box.
I
I'm like,
love that.
here's
I love
absolutely gracious.
that's yes. Please, I will sign anything. I love seeing them. I love, that's the best thing for me. And people are like, oh, well, I didn't want to like inundate you with all these books. Like, I don't mind. Although at the Tucson Festival, there was like a person at my table who somebody brought a whole bunch of books and he was like, you need to go to the back. And it was like, no, you just need to go to the back. Like, what? I don't know. He was really weird. He's like, she can only sign a few. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was really sweet. She waited till the end.
Oh
This was not you. No, I was gonna say it
no.
wasn't you.
Uh-uh.
Um, and then Burn Baby. Burn Baby is a podcast. I have been involved with Meet Cute, which is like a
Your
podcasting.
layer here of going from like cult base to a cult base that was based on a podcast to now an actual
I know now I have
podcast
an
is
actual
hilarious.
podcast. I again, I did not write this podcast. I was just sort of I was just an executive producer on it, but I have written for Meet Cute before. Meet Cute has all these it has this library of like these little rom-com podcasts. They're always so funny. They're so sweet. Like if you don't feel like listening to whatever podcast you like, if you want to listen to a story, like these are there's so many of them. They're usually only like 15 minutes long kind of per episodes. Some of them are multi-part. This one's going to be multi-part. And but it's a rom-com, but it's also a little bit of like a mystery. So that's why they kind of brought me in, and it was really fun because they had a writer. They already had the story all mapped out, so I just came in in the end and kind of gave advice on scripts and different sounds, and I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it was
Cool.
really fun. So I have not heard all the episodes yet. I've only heard three, but I've read all the scripts. It's really fun. So they are trying to kind of promote, they want people listening
Yeah.
to these stories, and especially this series. Burn Baby, it's called. It's got
I
everything.
I love seeing like how you don't pigeonhole yourself into, one lane. You're really trying so many things. And
I
I feel
do.
like
It's
it's
fun.
contributing
I
to
am very
creativity.
lucky. I'm
Yeah.
very lucky that people keep giving me the chance. Like, do you want to do this? Do you want to do this? Like, I'm doing like a DC comic. I'm not doing the art.
Yeah.
About
It's like, yeah, I know
the birds
I
of
feel
prey, about
that.
like birds of prey. So like Harley Quinn and some of the other ones.
Yes.
Like I wrote the story, and I'm doing all like the dialogue, the panels. And it was so much fun, and I'm like,
That's
I can't
so
believe somebody gave me the chance to do this. So, it's I love writing books, but some of this other stuff is like really, really fun to do because it's different.
I feel like, I mean, it's all part of the creative process too, where I'm sure all of this inspires
Totally.
you and fulfills you too. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
good for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, those are the two big things coming up though. But yes, Gaslight is out now. Burn Babies, I don't remember when it's coming. I think like late October,
Mhm.
October 29th or something. So I will definitely have it up on my social media.
Okay. And if anyone isn't following Sarah, I have all of her accounts linked down below. Her social media is really great. She makes really funny memes and like Pretty Little Liars content, as well as, posting about what she's got going on so you can stay in the loop. But you've got really great social media. And I feel like it's such a good reflection of your personality because, like, you and I are like the same kind of person that doesn't take ourselves too seriously. And we don't mind like making a little bit of a fool of ourselves online if someone's going to laugh about it. And I just love it.
Right.
It's so wholesome. It's so fun. And I feel like, I don't know, like you just are exactly who you are in person on the internet, which is wonderful.
Oh, yeah, I'm not a huge fan. I've had help with my social media.
Yeah.
But I am always up for making, if somebody can be like, will you make a video about this? I'll usually do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll usually be
No,
like,
you
yeah,
do.
all right. I mean, it's not gonna be great,
No,
but
they're
yeah,
really fun. You and your team do a great job. Like you have a good
yeah.
handle on the pulse. So I really
Oh,
enjoy following along.
yes, yes. Shout out to Morgan. She's amazing.
Oh, we love
If
Morgan.
she's watching, she's awesome.
Oh, all right. So I think that's all I have from you for today. But I mean, it's not a goodbye. It's a goodbye for now. You're not going
Yes.
to yet. I was like, I've been around for what, 15 years? I'm not going anywhere now at this point. So, but thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're incredibly busy, and a lot of our audience will be watching the replay as well. So they will be in touch in the comments and following you on
Awesome.
socials as well.
Awesome. And yeah, I just want to say hi to the book club. I met a lot of you, I feel like, right, at Tucson.
Mhm.
And it was so nice to meet all of you. I hope we can meet up in Tucson or some other place again.
Mhm.
But yes, please reach out if you have questions, if you want to chat. Um, Social media, or I mean, if you want me to check, I don't know if I'd be able to comment. I would be able to comment, I guess, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
On the YouTube.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way.
And
Well,
you let
I'll
us
also
know when you're into
post.
fun. Hmm.
Yeah, I'll also post that this is up, and you guys can, wherever you want to talk to me, that I'm always happy to talk to everybody.
Awesome. All
All
right. Yes,
right.
I will definitely ping you and you let us know when you're in Tucson. We'll plan something if you've got some free time. And
Yeah, for
we
sure.
love you and are so happy that we got to hang out with you today.
Yeah, same. Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye, Sarah.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Bye, Hannah. Bye.